install video showing you how to put a Predator bull bar on your next gen Ranger Raptor. Let's get started. Step one, open the bonnet, which is on the other side because I think it's built for the Yanks. You can be in the video too. Don't be scared. Normally I do it alone, but today I've got assistance because this is the prototype bar. So we need to bond it up so we can get the harness off. So our tippet, we're going to, this is the first time I actually pulled one apart, but I pull a lot of cards apart. We're going to get the harness off, so we'll pull this top panel off. These little clips here, get your screwdriver to start it. Then you get your trim tool, which is easiest. Otherwise, you can get a flathead screwdriver to pull it out. This way we're going to get the harness out. So it'll allow us to put all the electricity into your new bar. Yeah, let's pull it off. And this is the harness that we need to unplug. But what are you videoing? Oh. Just pull it forward. Boom. Okay, we've got these off. Next, bash plate. So there is a bolt here using a 15 mil socket, and then the one all the way at the back. What we're gonna do is these ones here, you just loosen them. Don't take them all the way out so we can pull the bash plate out. So this one and the one on the other side, take all the way out, then loosen the other ones. Okay. All right, we're just gonna pull it off now. Next, we're gonna take off this trim piece here. So there's some clips underneath. So you basically pull from underneath. So watch this side here. And try not to break it here. I can't do it one-handed. All right, so we're gonna pull that scrivet off there, there. 4 of those. Then we've pulled that, and using our trim tool, we've pulled that down. You can see that bolt head there and there. We'll be able to get all 3 of them, and the other one there. All right, so we've got the 4 scrivets out there. They were kind of tight with the screwdriver. We didn't have a stubby enough one, so we just got the trim tool in and got between the head of it and the body and pop it out, and then bang. You can see we're not gonna take off those ones there, other side. So we need to unplug that one as well, that one as well. Start. Little bolt here, other side. That's an 8. All right, now we can just pull. And way down in there, you see that clip there? We're gonna get those off to pull the bottom off. All right, so we've taken the loom, pulled it through there. There was a clip on the inside. There's that clip there. And another clip on the bottom, which will allow you to pull it through. All right. All right, now we're just gonna take the loom off.
One more clip.
One more clip. And the bumper is free. All right, so this support bracket here, we're gonna take that off, take those 2 off, and this is gonna be held up by the under panel, so do that on both sides. And this nut plate, we're gonna take the nut plate off.
Nut on the back.
To take the nut plate off, there's just a little nut, looks like a plastic nut. On both sides, just unscrew it, and you'll pull the whole nut plate out. There we go. So you get your tool above it, move it down, it's off. All right, we need to flip the horn, so we'll take the bracket off there. Looks like a 10 mil tool. All right, so we've taken the bracket off and put them both on the same bolt there, make it nice and tight, and we've kicked the horns up, so we have lots of cool clearance for the bull bar. Okay, so on the side of the intercooler, we're gonna take this bolt off. It's an 8 mil tool. Okay, because we're gonna remove the bottom of the toe points, the sandwich between for our brackets, we need to tie up the intercooler so it doesn't fall down. So get yourself some cam buckle straps, Probably not Anki straps, but I guess they would work, or a small ratchet strap, but these cam buckle straps are perfect. And what you're gonna do is feed it around the top brackets and hold up the bottom. So when you drop the toe points, which are holding the bottom up, the intercooler won't fall down. All right, we've tied it up. Now we're gonna take the toe points off. 15 mil socket. They will be going back on, but they're coming off for our bracketry. As you can see, that's why we are holding up the intercooler. There's your toe point. Chris, it is going back on, so save the bolts. All right, putting the mounts on. That is what your chassis looks like without a mount, and this is what it looks like with a full mount on. So as you can see, your factory toe points reused, and some spacers behind here. So we'll show you how to put it on, but that's what a completed side looks like. All right, the main bracket goes over the top like that, and this one goes on the outside and sits underneath. You can take a factory bolt, put it through the nut on the inside, the holes on the inside, and you're going to use a nut that we supply to secure it. So putting the spacers, you put the long M12 through the spacers, through the chassis, so you get 2 spacers there. So you take your lollipop nut plate through the center of the chassis, and then you can get your M10 on the outside there. Once you're finished and it's all torqued up, you are just going to bend the tag on the nut plate out of the way. So on the bottom one here, 2 more spacers. This one's a little bit harder because you tend to drop them, but endeavor and you'll get it. All right, so now you're going to put the factory toe point on. So down the bottom there, you're going to line up the locator on the intercooler with the bracket and reuse the same bolts that came out. Once you get those on, it'll hold the intercooler up. Now just remember, all the bolts are loose at the moment, so what we're going to do is we're going to measure the bull bar between these 2 faces here, and then we're going to sort this out to suit according to what the bull bar is. So take your tape measure outside to outside here. Looks like it's 800 mil.
800, yep.
And then we're gonna go over to our mounts, and we're gonna measure inside to inside here, so the bar is gonna fit. And we wanna have about 2 to 5 mil gaps. You want 802 to 805. And then we're just gonna adjust the mounts to suit, and then torque everything up. Now don't forget, the outside here, you got 2 M10 bolts that go from the bottom up with your flange nuts. Now that everything's in, you can release your straps, because your brackets are holding up the intercooler now. Forget your little bolt that goes through the front here. Get that in, that holds the intercooler in place as well. Okay, so we need to take all the tech out of the factory bumper. So our fog light's got to come out, our parking sensor's got to come out, and our radar's got to come out. So basically this bracket here we're taking off. So we'll basically take all these off, including there, below. All right, taking the camera off.
That's the radar.
Radar. You got the... So using a trim tool here, you're gonna pop off, or you can use a flathead screwdriver. Basically, you're popping these off. This way, it allows you to get the camera actually off the bracket. So there's one on the other side as well.
Unplug the, you actually have to do this to get the loom unplugged.
To get the loom unplugged. That's right. Pop the cover off. And unplug the loom. Now with that unplugged, taking off all the Christmas trees which holding the loom on, be very careful, don't drop it. Going forward, we still need to take more of the bumper apart. So we're gonna take all the metal bolts off, then pull all the plastic clips off all the way along. All right, we're gonna take this panel off here, T25 Torx bit, 2 there, and 1 underneath.
That's not a T.
As you take that cover off, you can get to these 2 screws here. Okay, so we've taken all the bolts out from the metal brackets. As you can see over there, that last little one gets this one out on the other side, pull it off. And then basically, once you unclip all these Christmas trees here, there's these little clips in here, and you're basically just gonna pull them apart. And once you pull them apart, you'll get access, you'll see the sensors. So we're just gonna take the sensors out by pulling these 2 tabs apart, pulls the sensor out, but we need to get the whole loom out because the whole loom's going in your bull bar. All right, we're taking the fog light out, T25 Torx bit. Do this obviously for both sides. Right now, pull it all out, and then we can get to all the sensors. There we go. Right, and you can pull the sensor out, so you unplug it, that gets your loom out, and then to pull them apart,
Fingers
let's
crossed.
just pull those 2. Bye-bye. Now we supply new housing, so you can leave the factory housings in. Take the whole loom out, put it aside. That's going to be into the bull bar. So next, we're going to get the bull bar ready, which involves putting the parking sensor housings in, our little cage nuts for the outside, putting the looms in, fog lights, all that jazz. Let's get to it now. Time to put your cage nuts in. So easiest way is to drop one leg in, take a flathead screwdriver, push a leg in, and you're done. All right, putting the light bar in now. So when you take the light bar out of the box, you're gonna wanna put your brackets, feet out. Don't forget to take the blue plastic off the top. Let's just protect it during transport. And we're gonna pop the light bar in there. So that we're gonna put 2 bolts on the outside. And then this is our pan brace here, right? So the pan brace basically goes underneath like that. 3 bolts there, 2 bolts to the top. What happens there is it really completes the sort of member right here, so it's all nice and rigid. So you don't, if you have any lights on top, it's not going to really vibrate your lights. So don't forget that. Super important. Okay, feeding the loom in. So basically, you got to make sure that on this side you have the plug, and you feed it all the way through there, up the back, all the way through, so you can get all your parking sensors to each hole you need. And then we're actually going to glue the parking sensors on, or sorry, double-sided tape. So we supply a kit, a parking sensor kit that allows you to put them in the spots correctly. All right, we're going to put the fog light loom in. That's not the factory fog light. We're making a different bracket, but it's pretty much the same. Instead of 4 bolts, it's 3 bolts. But anyway, you fit the bracket to the mesh panel, then in from the back. I actually find this easier to do if it's sitting up, but we're going to put the parking sensors in so we have it lying flat. So we got to get our loom out of the way and line up.
That loom needs to go over the top of the bar.
There we go. Put a nut on. And then for these top ones here, if you actually hold the nut in place and then put the bolt in from the bottom, it's super easy. And it looks like that. Time for the parking sensors. Chris will run us through it.
So the housings, that you can see, they actually hold the sensors on an angle, so you need to make sure they go the right way up. They should hold the sensor flat or vertical relative to the bar, so the protruding part should be at the bottom. We've got this adhesion promoter, which we use to boost the adhesion of the tape that we use. So to do that, you just pinch this little spot here until it breaks, and then you let the adhesion promoter come through. You paint that onto the side of the sensor housings where you're going to put the tape, and also the areas adjacent to the holes where it's going to go, and that will just boost the adhesion of the sensors. So we'll just do that for all of them while we're here.
Excuse the mess, it's a prototype.
So we supply a 3M tape in pads. So we just put them on the housings. It's generally easier also to fit the parking sensor into the housing before you put it into the bar. You just push it in until it goes click. And you need to check also that that's all good. We might need to get a little flat screwdriver just to make sure that that rubber is sitting nicely. Actually, a little pick here we can use to just tweak that. We'll need to get another tool, that's not quite thin enough. But you just need to make sure that that rubber is sitting perfectly flat, and then we'll be ready to stick it on.
And we just put it into place. Probably the hardest bit is picking the backing off the tape.
You can use, if you've got really fine nosed pliers, it can help sometimes as well.
Okay, let's put it in.
So make sure that it is facing the right way.
You can refer to the fit instructions for full detailed orientation of the sensors because it does matter which way these ones go in.
So that's facing up, give it a bit of pressure.
Yeah, hold it for at least 10 seconds down.
Get a nice strong bond. And then plug it back in. And that's good.
Alright, so we'll do the rest. And that is what it should look like from the front. So you can see the white ring, that rubber ring, is all the way around. And this is the orientation of the sensors. So you need to match this orientation using the correct housings because they're different, and we will label which ones are which. And your loom's in, so you can cable tie your loom out of the way. And let's put it on the car. So we need to do a flare cut to ensure the bull bar goes underneath nice. So there's 2 screws here, torque screws. That is a T25. So taking those 2 out. Now, put them aside, you're not going to use them again. The flare is clipped all the way in, but there's 2 clips right here that we need to come off. So once you take those screws off, holding on the bottom of the flare, it's quite hard, you got to pull, but not too hard, you're going to break everything. But these 2 here, so basically, we've pulled off enough there. We're going to stuff a rag in there to separate the flare away from the body, so when we cut it, we don't cut the body. And so I can push that back in, so we'll mark the flare and then pull it off and separate it to cut it. Putting your tape on there, follow the measurements in the fitting instructions for exactly how to do your marking now. And using masking tape on the top section, then you can cut below, which is going to be removed. Now, as you can see, we've got the rag between the flare and the body to separate it. You can use an angle grinder, which is a bit dangerous close to the body, or an air hacksaw, or something like this reciprocating saw here, which basically allows you to cut along that top edge. So not that edge there, that straight edge there. All right, you mask up the area and paint that black. Especially if you have a white car, you don't want to see the gap. Okay, we've cut the flare and we've painted the inside guard so it looks nice and neat. It's time to put the bar on the car. Now, if you have an integrated control box on your winch, a lot of them will be okay, but some like the Xeon are a little bit tall, so it does require trimming the grill on the front or under the grill, the bumper just on the front there. And we're going to put the winch in the cradle now and then push the bar on, where typically you can put the winch in through the side, through the front. So only because we're fitting a Xeon that we're going to do that now. So I'm just going to drop the winch onto the cradle, and we're using this lifting trolley here. You can use 2 or 3 people or even a jack to put it on, but the lifting trolley makes it super, super easy. So I'll do that now. So the wheel liner on the side here, you might need to take a knife and just give it a quick slit, which will allow it to bend. Put a cable tie here, which is no good. Okay, now what we're going to do, once we have the bar roughly in position, this is the bit that makes it a lot easier if you have a lifting table like this. We're going to push it close, and then we're going to see if we can maintain 15 to 20 mil gap all the way along and keeping it flat here to our flare. And when we're happy with position, then we put the bolts in and lock them down. All right, pop your nut inside your winch, and from underneath, and feed in our bolts. And do them up. Got the cables, so the negative and the positive, going up in there, and all the way up in through there from behind the headlight, and then the main loom, that's the main loom, going up through that little window up there and showing you above. Main loom coming through, and the lines for the winch, we can reach the battery. That's how you run your winch. Okay, so we're going to put the loom in. So we're going to come up the bottom and all the way through inside there and up. So you can either drop a line to help pull it up, but helps using a friend, someone on the bottom, someone on the top, and then you can basically plug it back in. We're going to pull the radar off its bracket. Basically, you just grease onto it. Don't pull too hard, but you and there you go. It's pulled off. Now we're going to put this on our bracket. So we've put the winch fair lead on to the center mesh. If you're not running a winch, obviously don't worry about that. Now we're going to put the camera together. Sorry, the radar.
So you've got the U-shaped bracket, the cover plate, and the radar module. So the U bracket sits on top of the radar module, and then the cover plate sits on top of that. Note that this can go two ways. There should be a bigger gap here. If it's partially covering the holes, that's the wrong way around. So it goes like this. 6x30 bolt through the whole lot, and a flange nut on the back. So that's the case on both sides of the bottom of the radar. And for the top bolt, we need to put two, so 6x30, but there needs to be two flat washers that go in between to shim it out so that it's the same orientation as the factory mount. So that's a bit fiddly. Generally find it's easiest if you have it. I can't see what I'm doing while I'm showing the camera. But yeah, two washers in between there.
So the two washers go
in that gap between the U bracket and the radar module.
So two right in the gap. Okay, as you can see, the two washers are there. So you got the cover plate, the bracket, two washers, and then the radar.
And then this goes in from the back into there.
Oh, like a glove.
And secured on with 6x16s.
Okay, I'll get the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how you fit the radar. So if you're relocating the camera will go above it. I'll show you that soon. All right, fitting the number plate flip. So you got your M8 bolt going through the outside and a nylock on the inside and nylon washer between them, and basically fits like that. And then you tension up your nylock and your bolt there, so when it's like that, it can stay up all by itself. Well, not the whole bracket, you mean just that. And then we can fit the number plate, or your number plate. And if you're not relocating the camera, that's good to go on the car. If you have a hoop or some lights on top to get in the way of your camera, then you can relocate the camera here. Okay, so we have our center mesh here. We're gonna put it through. Now, if you're running a winch, you need to thread it through. Where's the end?
In the plastic bag.
You need to thread it obviously through your fair lead here first. Now, I'm going to do the rest of this off camera because you don't want to see me pull 30 meters through, do you? With movie magic, that went really fast. Okay, so we have two M8 button heads that we put up.
Have to plug the sensor as you offer it up.
You're right. Where is it? So we're going to plug in the camera first. Sorry, the radar. I keep saying camera. It's radar. All right. So then what we're going to do, get this started so I can take the weight for me. All right. So we use two M8 by 16s here, two M8 by 20s down there, buttonhead cap screws, and the hex M8 by 20s go on the bottom. And I know I said M8 by 20, but what I actually mean is M8 by 25. Okay, so time to put the under panels on. This is the left-hand side one here. Now, this felt here, this wheel well liner, the under panel basically holds it up, but we do need to trim the inside of it. So this little bracket that was holding that bit there that was holding that felt down, basically in line with it, you're going to take a sharp knife and just cut down, right? And what that does, separates it. So this bit here, we're just going to fold up, and the under panel is going to hold it into place. And then we're going to take our knife and basically just trim off this inside bit here and just make it look nice. So that little bit gets cut off. So you get your M6 button head cap screws, and I find it easiest to go on the inside one first. You just start that one. And then there is an M8 nut that goes right through there into the side. That's just a hex, sorry, M8 bolt, hex bolt, and a nut. Okay, just about finished. We're gonna put the bash plates on last. We have an air guide here that's on this front bash plate. So the front bash plate goes on first. So just 3 M6 button head cap screws, and then also fitting 3 M8 cage nuts, which the other bash plate mounts onto. So we've got nuts already welded into the bar here, just making sure I'm testing one here. And what we're going to do is lift up the bash plate, put these front bolts in, which go through the mesh panel and then into the winch cradle. Oh, one there as well. Okay, so this bracket, or sorry, this flange that comes off the mount here, we're going to use this M10 button head cap screw and a flange nut to go through. And if we can just slide our finger. Okay, we've got the front bash plate on. Now for the back one here, so we fit this little bracket here, this top hat bracket, because you got offset heights on the chassis there. So the factory bolts are still in under the chassis there. They're down a little bit so we can feed these through. And then the factory bolts through the bottom of the tow hooks are going in these slots here. And those M8 cage nuts to the front, obviously for the front. So Easiest to lie on the ground and do this. And then you grab your factory ones to hold it up for you. Put the other one on the side, and your 3 bolts through there in the front. We're basically nearly finished. Okay, lucky last is we're going to fit the compliance plate now. Make sure you fit the compliance plate. Now, we suggest putting it under the bash plate. That way it's not in your face, but if you need to show the authorities that you got one, you got one. So rip off your backing and pop it in. Probably here. Done.